Hansel and Gretel. Long time ago, a woodcutter lived in a tiny cottage next to a deep forest with his two children, Hansel and Gretel. Hansel was a smart and clever boy, and Gretel was a shy and timid girl. His second wife often ill-treated the children and was forever nagging the woodcarver. "There's not enough food in the house for us all. There's too many mouths to feed. We must get rid of the two brats, or we'll starve to death," she declared. The woodcutter opposed the wife's evil plan, but she wouldn't listen to him. Poor Hansel and Gretel had overheard the conversation and were left crying all night. One day, Father had to go to the town to earn money for the family's living. The evil stepmother got a chance to take the little children in the forest and leave them all by themselves. Next morning, the stepmother calls out for Hansel and Gretel and says cheerily, "Get ready, my children, let's go for a picnic." She tries to be as kind as possible, so that the children do not come to know of her plans. She packs a bag with some bread and cookies and hands it over to Gretel and says, "Hold this, sweet little Gretel. We shall have this food in the forest." She merrily locks the house, and they start walking towards the forest. Hansel was a stone collector. He had a huge collection of white pebbles, which he carried everywhere. Stealthily, Hansel had a trail of white pebbles, thinking, "We can follow these pebbles back home." For him, it was just part of a game. He was unaware of his stepmother's plan, but she had noticed the white pebbles that Hansel was dropping by, but she remained quiet. As they reached deep in the forest, the stepmother said, "This looks like a good spot for a picnic. You both can take a nap here, while I go and get some fresh fruits for you two." She left them all alone. Hansel and Gretel sat below a big tree and ate some cookies and played some games. Time passed by, and it was almost evening. Gretel started to get worried that their mother was not back yet to get them. Since the stepmother had seen Hansel dropping the pebbles all the way till where she left them, she knew the children were smart enough to follow the pebbles back home. So on her way back, she collected the white pebbles that Hansel had dropped and made a similar trail of the pebbles towards an unused path which led elsewhere. Gretel was scared, so Hansel told her, "Let's wait for nightfall. I dropped a trail of white pebbles all the way here, so with the moonlight shining on them, we could get back home." When the night fell, the horrible sounds of all the wild animals started to echo around them. They were scared, but they waited till the moonrise, and they were happy to see their white pebbles shining in the moonlight, and started to follow the trail, which they thought they had laid cleverly, unaware that the stepmother had changed the path. "Now give me your hand. We'll get home safely, you'll see," Hansel said with immense confidence. Soon they were tired of walking, and they were nowhere close to their house. They decided to sit at the foot of a tree, as there were many fireflies making light and dancing. They gazed at the moon and the fireflies, and soon fell asleep. The night went by, and in the morning they got up from their sleep. They saw a magnificent and beautiful butterfly. It was full of colors. They looked at each other and smiled with happiness. For a moment, they forgot they were lost and hungry, and followed the butterfly and tried to play with it. And within no time, they reached towards a funny-looking house. They were astonished to see the house was made of chocolates, candies, gems, and cakes. They had never seen such a house before. They were so happy and could not resist having those delicious sweets. This is like a dreamland. When they were done, they saw the door of the house and decided to go inside, expecting lots more to eat and play. As they go inside, the door slams and they see a beautiful lady cooking supper. They greet her with happiness, as she looked so kind and generous. "Good afternoon, my dear lady," Hansel and Gretel said to her. "We have lost our way back home. Would you be kind enough to help us find our way back?" The lady looks at them with enough kindness and nods her head. "Yes, of course, my children. I shall surely help you. But be my guest and stay with me for a few days. I stay alone and would like to enjoy your company." The children were really happy. She cooked delicious food for them and served them whatever they could think of. "You both are very lean and slim. I'll feed you and make you healthy," she said with a smile. A few days passed, and one night Gretel got up from her sleep at midnight. As she got up, she heard the sounds of some whispers. She started walking towards the sound and saw that the beautiful lady was actually a cruel witch who was planning and plotting to kill the children and eat them up. She was serving them delicious food to make them healthy so that she could eat them as a meal. The witch did not know that Gretel had seen her, and Gretel was shivering to the core of her heart. The next morning, when the children woke up, they found that things were different. There was no food on the table, and no delicacies for them to have. Gretel had still not told Hansel of what she saw last night. And as she decides to tell him, the lady who was actually a witch came, and with enough love told the children that there was not enough wood in the house to cook, so she could not cook any meals for them. The lady asked Hansel, "Dear son, would you please get some wood from the nearby forest so that I can cook a meal for all of us? Meanwhile, me and Gretel will do the preparations." Hansel agreed quickly. She handed him an axe, and he left the house happily. Gretel knew something was not right and was very scared, but she kept on doing what the lady told her, so as not to alarm her. As Hansel was going towards the forest, he saw at the back of the house that there were piles of logs stacked. He was a clever boy, and at once he felt that something was wrong. He tried to peep in the window and suddenly saw the actual witch, who had now shown her actual self to Gretel. Hansel did not make any noise and was very careful that the witch may not feel his presence. Hansel was planning fast as what could be done, and how he can protect his dear sister. Meanwhile, he heard the cruel witch telling Gretel, "Go to the kitchen and start the oven." Gretel had no choice but to do what the witch told her. Sometime later, the witch told Gretel, "Go and check if the oven was properly lit." Gretel told the witch, "I don't know how to check. Can you show me how to check it so that I can do it later?" The witch was annoyed with how stupid Gretel appeared to be. "Come on, girl, I'll show you," she said. Hansel, who was observing everything from outside, thought that this was his only chance. As the witch started to walk towards the oven, he came from behind stealthily, and as the witch bent down to check in the oven, Hansel ran towards her and pushed her in. And Gretel efficiently closed the oven door and locked it. The evil witch burnt to a crisp. Hansel and Gretel hugged each other. They both could not believe what happened, and that they were safe now. They went to the witch's room and were surprised to see how much wealth and precious gems she owned. They filled all they could in their bag and left the house quickly, and ran till they eventually reached their house. They saw their father sitting out in the porch. He looked so miserable and sad. They quickly ran towards him, and they all kissed and hugged each other. The children told their father all they had experienced. The father was really angry and told his nagging wife to leave them alone and to never return. As she goes, the children show the gems and wealth they collected from the evil witch's treasure. Finally, they had enough money that their dad could stay home, and they lived happily ever after. The end. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get future updates. And don't forget to comment.